set up in 2007 to critique and participate in the London planning process when the previous iteration of the London plan was being formulated. And since then, Just Space has grown and has developed a strong collaboration with UCL in trying to find creative ways of getting staff and students to co-produce knowledge with communities. And Richard is going to talk about the ethical questions and difficulties arising in that process.
Okay, thanks, Claire. I may be wrong, but maybe I'm the token community over 2 days. I guess I'm here because I'm an example, and the community organisations I'm part of are examples of the people who are being researched by yourselves, the researchers. And I did, just in the short time available, want to perhaps pose some ethical issues from the front line, the coalface, if you like. By coincidence, because I didn't know what Sarah's subject was going to be, I'm actually an active resident of the Elephant and Castle. And because I always feel that if one is a community speaker at an event where there aren't other community speakers, it's actually probably a good idea to be authentic to where you're coming from and actually talk about the community rather than we do some analysis of the institution. So I'm going to say something about the Elephant and Castle, just because that's where I live and it's my experience. But really what I'm saying does apply across the board. So I think, as Sarah outlined, the Elephant and Castle is a very much researched part of London. Obviously it's an area of huge development and has been for quite some time now. And the fact that the Elephant is researched so much, and that includes creative people like Sarah, and geographers and planners and architects, and so on. There's a wide range of researchers, and the researchers are national, sometimes international, not just London universities researching. And I think the first issue from our experience is that the majority of the researchers ignore the very rich community tapestry that actually exists at the Elephant and Castle. And by the community tapestry, I'm not referring to the individual citizen. I'm referring to a very wide range of different types of community voluntary association that exist on the ground at the Elephant and similarly in many parts of London, where one has a large number of tenants and residents associations, Friends of Parks groups, small business associations, community centres, heritage groups, and so on and so on. There's actually hundreds within the area of the Elephant and Castle, hundreds of voluntary associations. First problem we find is that the majority of the researchers aren't able to get in touch with us. Maybe they're not inclined to, but certainly they won't get in touch with us when they're doing their research. They would be directed or feel inclined to go to the local authority, inclined to go to one of the major developers in the area. In the majority of cases, do not see the need to actually engage with those community citizen associations in the area. That's the first problem. Why? The second issue is when, and it's a minority of cases, because we're very well researched, it still means research requests every week on a weekly basis. One of the groups that I'm part of, called the Elephant Amenity Network, which is a network of lots of associations in the area, we get weekly requests to assist researchers. And we try and help because we see a mutual benefit. We feel that because of our experience, We have a lot of knowledge to offer about the area and what's happening at the Elephant and Castle. And equally, we recognise that researchers bring their critical faculties, bring the opportunity to do valuable research, which could be very useful for us. So, on the whole, we start from a positive position. But that positive position is put under threat by the attitude, behaviour of the researcher. So, what do I mean by that? We'll agree to a request to set up an interview, and at the start of the interview, in the majority of cases, if it was myself, I'll be presented with a consent form, some kind of ethics policy statement, which of course is there to protect me, I'm told. It's there to protect my confidentiality. And it's there to show I'm giving consent to be interviewed, and that everything I say will remain anonymous, and I will not be embarrassed or anything like that. But this is really not very sensitive. It's not recognising who I am at all. I'm from a citizens' organisation in the area. We don't want to be anonymous. You know? We actually don't want to be a hidden part of history. We actually want to be very visible. We want our story to be told. It's important to us. So this is a problem to begin with. Why we are being told we will protect your anonymity. Why? This is not a sensitive instrument. It needs to be used. Of course, there are many people who have vulnerabilities where this is quite appropriate. There's many other cases, as in community organisations, where usually it's not appropriate. We don't want anonymity. So this instrument needs to be more sensitive than it is at the moment. And that consent form is pretty much all I am given in terms of an ethics policy. So when I raise issues, as I always do, will you be providing me with a copy of your research upon completion? I usually get the answer, well, I'll have to go and discuss that with my tutor. I don't know about that. That's the usual response. When I ask questions about, and if I suggest some useful research that you could do within your parameters, and after learning what they're studying, maybe you could look at this and this would be really helpful. Again, but I've already agreed my parameters before I come to you. I've had this signed off, I can't change it. Again, unsatisfactory. So these are just some examples of what are really ethical questions. And very often, despite our organisation at the Elephant always insisting that we do want a copy of the final report, in most cases we still have to chase people, despite making it very clear right at the start, this is important to us. You have to show you value us by giving us a copy of your completed research. In most cases we have to chase people, and sometimes we never get anything. Why? Why is this not seen as important? Why is it that the tutors who are supervising these students don't see it as important? If it was a matter of data confidentiality, oh dear, this is terrible. This must be sorted. When it comes to actually sharing the results of research with the people who are being researched, seems to be a problem area. So, because of this type of experience across London, Just Space, who I coordinate, which is a London-wide network of community organisations, we held a conference in 2011, which was actually funded by UCL Public Engagement Unit. And as part of the conference, we agreed and produced what we call a protocol for collaboration between researchers and community groups. And I wanted to just check how many of you have read this here. So maybe half a dozen or so. A small minority. And how many of you are here at UCL? Rather more, a larger number. So this protocol was, We raise it every time that we have opportunities like this. It is used in some modules within the Bartlett School of Planning. But our experience actually is that despite this being seen nationally as quite innovative, so it appears on various websites for good practice, actually it's not really being taken up even by the Bartlett School of Planning or the Bartlett School in general, in our experience. Again, why is this not being taken up? It's seen nationally as something good. It's talked about, we get requests to talk about it all over the country, and yet at the moment UCL is really not recognising this and getting behind it. To us that's an ethical issue as well. How long have I got left? 2 minutes or something? 1 minute, okay. So just two quick final comments then. Maybe there'll be the chance in the panel to talk about the work on demolition versus refurbishment, which was a great piece of work with the engineering exchange. But I do have an observation related to this, which again, for us at a community level, poses an ethical question. The use of that report. That report was, as Charlotte, I feel very accurately and sensitively portrayed, was actually a request from community organisations, and it was taken up with great support by Charlotte, Sarah Bell and others at the Engineering Exchange. And yet, just a week ago, there was a meeting here at UCL, quite a high-profile meeting, about the case of Bobby Wood Gardens, about an estate in London facing demolition pressure, an attempt to get English Heritage to list it and so on. And the flyer for the event spoke about the report on demolition or refurbishment. And the flyer said, there will be the opportunity at this event for organisations to find out about research publications from the Urban Laboratory, including the report on refurbishment of social housing, which was published in conjunction with the Engineering Exchange. And no mention, just space, no mention of London Tenants Federation, the organisations who it was actually produced for, who commissioned it, who drove it, and yet we're not mentioned. And the meeting itself was even about the demolition of a council estate in London, a very famous case where there was a strong community pressure, and 10 speakers at that event. Not one of them was a community speaker. We were never, I don't think anyone was approached, maybe I can be corrected, but people I've spoken to weren't approached. Just Space wasn't approached, and the Tenants Federation wasn't approached. And yet there were 8 directors and professors and an artist and a PhD student who had the chance to talk about this. But why does this happen? Why? It's frustrating, especially when great work was done with Urban Lab support, and yet the actual use of it is, to use a word that someone else has mentioned, it feels extractive. This is an example for us. It feels it's being appropriated. Why? Why is this happening? So I know my time's up, but maybe I'll get the chance on the panel to make some other reflections.
Thanks, Richard. Definitely food for thought in the discussion that will ensue.